The trillion-dollar ghost economy. They added $1 trillion in revenue. They hired 100,000 people. Do the math. 20 years ago, Hewlett-Packard became the first tech company to cross $100 billion in annual revenue. It took them 172,000 employees to get there. IBM followed a year later with nearly 400,000 workers on the payroll. That was the old arithmetic. More revenue, more people, more desks filled every Monday morning. Now let's look at the new math. Apple's most recent $100 billion in revenue, 17,000 employees. Alphabet's latest $100 billion, 11,000 employees. Microsoft just added $100 billion with 7,000 people. 7,000. NVIDIA reached $100 billion in revenue with only 30,000 workers total, and they'll hit the next $100 billion by adding maybe 8,000 more. This isn't about the pandemic hiring spree and the layoffs that followed. This pattern was already forming before generative AI became the phrase on every earnings call. The decoupling of labor and capital has been happening quietly for years, and it's accelerating. Add up the numbers. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, NVIDIA's last $100 billion each, plus Amazon's last $200 billion, plus Walmart's $300 billion in growth. That's $1 trillion in new revenue generated with only 100,000 new employees. $1 trillion. And that was before ChatGPT went mainstream. Amazon CEO recently told employees directly, as we roll out more AI and agents, we'll need fewer people doing some jobs. The company expects its total corporate workforce to shrink in the coming years, even as revenue climbs. Walmart's held headcount flat for a decade while adding $200 billion in sales. They expect it to stay flat for at least 3 years. This isn't efficiency. This is transformation. The companies that dominate the economy are learning to grow without people. Revenue climbs, profits soar, stock prices break records, but the jobs, they're becoming optional. The old model assumed growth created opportunity. More customers meant more workers. That contract is breaking. We're building a smiling curve economy. Tech giants on one side, gig workers on the other, and everyone in the middle getting squeezed into irrelevance. A recruiter looks at the job board and wonders why there are fewer recs this quarter, even though earnings were strong. A mid-career professional reads about record profits and wonders why their department is cutting positions. The math doesn't lie, but it does not comfort either. Somewhere an algorithm is doing the work 3 people used to do, and somewhere those 3 people are updating their resumes, trying to explain why their skills still matter in an economy that's learned to grow without them. Whew. To keep up with what's happening now and what's happening next in the world of work, subscribe to my newsletter, The Recruiting Life, over at jimstroud.com. Because they added $1 trillion in revenue with 100,000 workers. And the next trillion, it'll take even less. It is